Welcome to Advocate for Wellness. I'm your host, Ann Kasper. Today we have two guests, Melody Gilman, who is an advocate, peer wellness specialist, and an artist.
Yes.
And we have her husband, Lew Frederik, who happens to be a state representative for the state of Oregon, a communications consultant, and her husband, too.
Yes.
So can you tell us how you first met and when that was? And
She'll tell you that the date, but we were both at a Herbie Hancock concert in downtown Portland.
March
Okay.
8th, 1974.
Okay.
March 7th. But
No.
she was sitting behind me, and at one point I asked if she would watch my jacket when I left. And
All right.
so we ended up.
So we picked each other up.
We did
Great.
right there, and we danced a little bit in the aisle at the Herbie Hancock concert, and then a couple of days later she showed up at the bookstore I was working at.
Oh,
Because
okay.
he just happened to mention
Yeah.
Where are you
working at
working?
this place. And I showed
Yeah.
up on a Sunday because I thought the concert was on Friday. I thought Saturday would be too soon. So I waited till Sunday.
And I looked
Right.
for her all of Saturday.
Great. I think we have a photo of you guys. From the,
Yeah, there's a
couple
photo
years
there.
ago.
That was a few years ago.
Right.
Actually, it was 40 years ago.
40 years ago. Wow. Okay.
And it took forever for him to tell me his age because he's younger than I am.
Oh,
A little conscious of that at the time.
right. And you have a family, right?
Yes, 2 children.
Yeah,
Okay.
son and a daughter, and son and daughter-in-law are teaching in English in Mexico right now,
Oh.
and our daughter is working as a barista over at a bakery, Fresno Bakery, over in just off of Irving. Is it Irving?
Yeah.
Irving and 19th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Told
great.
she's the best barista in Portland, and she's also an artist.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So, Melody, we're here to talk a little bit about your mental health challenges. Can you talk about when they started and what
I've
happened?
had mental health issues since childhood. They were first brought to my parents' attention when I started grade school, but my parents, and it was the era, were in total denial, said no, does not have mental health issues, she's this, she's that, all kinds of excuses for my behaviors, but never accepted that I needed mental health counseling assistance. So basically, I went through childhood feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with me, and I withdrew within myself, being so uncomfortable around people,
Okay.
and just ghosted through childhood.
How was school for you?
Horrible. Yeah, no. And
Right.
I mean, I did adequately in school, but I don't think I was really present.
You say adequately, but she did adequately. Academically, you did well.
Yeah, but not
Okay.
socially.
Not socially.
Socially.
Uh-uh,
Okay.
no.
And you think if your parents had helped you at that time or gotten help, it would have
Yeah,
been different?
if they had recognized that, yeah, maybe I do need some help, had some issues. But mental health problems run in my family, and they have historically been hidden.
Okay. And maybe due to stigma at that time, too?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right.
It was shameful at that time to have mental illness. Yeah.
And how did you figure out that you had some things?
Well, as I said, I grew up always feeling that there was something wrong with me, never comfortable with other people, with myself, learning how to wear masks and perform whatever I needed to do for whomever and whatever I needed to do, but not really for myself. And probably when I was in my 20s and really feeling uncomfortable with life and began self-medicating with drugs and a lot of bad behaviors and legal trouble with the law.
And what does self-medicating mean for you? People might not know that.
For me, I mean, the street drugs are different now than they were then, but at that time I smoked a lot of marijuana. I say I smoke dope, but my daughter has told me that doesn't mean the same thing nowadays. If you smoke dope nowadays, it means heroin.
But it helped you?
Yeah,
then?
I smoked marijuana, hash, opium, did a lot of psychedelics, a lot of speed, just a lot of different drugs.
And how did they help you with your symptoms?
I felt, especially with speed, I felt normal. I felt like I was likable. I liked myself. I felt like I was a competent, capable person, and I had a lot of energy and was able to be more outgoing. Yeah.
Okay.
They
then-
masked a lot of the symptoms.
Right. And you said you could wear masks so you could actually act in front of people?
Well, I didn't wear physical masks.
right.
But yeah,
but-
whatever I needed to be, it was the persona that I put on. Yeah,
And you made it all the way through school?
all the
and-
way through school. Actually, all the way through life up until my mid-30s when things kind of crashed in on me again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened then?
My daughter reached the age at which I had had a traumatic event.
Okay.
And when she was that age, I started to kind of start to remember things and be very uncomfortable. And at first I thought, something wrong with my children. They need help. They're not doing well. And so I tried to get them in therapy. And the therapist I got them engaged with called me in one day and said, "Your children are doing okay considering. Have you ever thought about getting help?"
Oh.
Yeah.
How did you feel when they said that?
Actually, I felt relieved because I
Okay.
had been denying it all my life, and I was just at the point where I couldn't deny it any longer.
Okay.
My first suicide attempt was when I was 21, and then from mid-30s on, many more multiple suicide attempts,
Wow.
many hospitalizations. I was what they called a revolving door patient.
Okay.
In this way, out that way, and then back in. Just constantly.
Yeah, we were talking every 3 to 6 months at least, either hospitalization or severe issues, and so we weren't sure what was going on.
And how was that for you?
Oh, it was difficult. It was
Yeah.
it was a struggle. Being unclear, who I was coming home to after work, what was happening with the kids. They were handling it differently than I understood.
Okay.
I thought I assumed certain things were taking place that were not, and then there would be times when there would be a call from the police, or there would be a call, or I would get home and Melody would be in a non-communicative state, and that would be either because of an overdose or because of just she was not able to talk, or had dropped into one of the sort of personalities that she sort of adopted for a while there. And a couple of them were basically children or younger than children. I mean, they were toddlers or something like that, which I didn't recognize at that point. I thought that she was just having problems with mood swings, or somebody had done something wrong that day, or whatever. And somebody may have done something wrong that day that triggered it, but it wasn't clear what that might be.
I
Okay.
must say that
Yes.
Lew has come a long way in his understanding and has become a wonderful advocate for mental health.
Yes.
But at the beginning, and I think a lot of family members deal with this at the beginning, he was angry. And he was angry with me.
Oh.
And he used to say, "Snap out of it. Just, knock it off, snap out of it." Before he recognized that, no, it wasn't me choosing to behave this way.
Right.
And he told me once that when he first met me, even though he had recognized in some way the issues, he said, "I thought you were just moody." Did
Oh.
not recognize it as actually being an issue.
And I will say that it's interesting. I just came across a letter, not a letter, but a note that our daughter wrote about one of the incidents, one of the situations that took place.
About me.
Well, about me coming home and finding Melody, and it was it wasn't so much a snap out of it as what's going on, because there was no way for me to understand what was taking
Right.
place.
Did you have any support from anybody else in the community, or friends or family, or you're just kind of off on your own?
Well, for the
Yes.
most part, it was, I had, off and on, we had friends and family attempt to do what they could, but they
Okay.
were also unclear. I mean, Melody said she would wear a mask. So
Okay.
when
I
they
am
were
a consummate actress.
when they would show
Yeah.
up and we would be with them, she would be able to be very you know, normal, if you will. She was able to talk with folks
Okay.
and handle things. But as soon as they left, everything would collapse. So I would, you know, I was in several different jobs during that time. I was a reporter at one point during that time, and then I was working for the school district. So I would not necessarily. Sometimes I was out of town, or I would come home and not be sure what was going on, what had taken place. So
How
it
were
was
the
difficult.
hospitalizations for you?
At first, they were very difficult, and I really resisted and did not participate. Spent a lot of time hiding in my room, and gradually, and then I went through a phase of figuring out, oh, this is how I need to behave in order to get out of here.
All right.
And so then I played the game and just went in and out, but without really benefiting from it. And then finally, toward the last few hospitalizations, I began to realize this is an opportunity for me to get some help.
Okay.
So it went through a whole process of growth within.
But there is an issue there that was really important. I didn't get any information. Family didn't get it. Got no information about what was really going on. You know, I could see her, in hindsight, I could see her managing to be a mask and act out all of these things.
Okay.
But really did not get a sense of what was really going on until, probably 8, maybe 10 years into this.
Really?
Yeah.
And this has
and
been
even
going on
and even
over
this
that.
even then it was a limited amount. I mean, one of the classic situations was that I was never really sure what medication she was taking.
Oh, okay.
And
And you
or-
were prescribed many medications?
Many.
what she might have overdosed on at that particular time. So I would show up, we would show up at the hospital, and I would try to find whatever pill bottles I could find and say, this is what I found. I don't know what she's taking.
Wow.
And they were adjusting medication for different reasons and different times. And then then at other times, the medication was clearly having side effects that were also an issue and continue to be an issue, and I didn't know what those were.
Okay.
So if I didn't know what the medication was, I certainly didn't know what the side effects were.
Wow. Anything you want to say about
Medication.
medications?
Medication. I personally don't take medication anymore. I am trying to do some behavioral modification right now with my psychiatrist as treatment. Medication is a very individual thing. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others. It was not particularly beneficial for me. Plus, I tended to abuse it.
Okay.
That's the way it was. And, you know, it's just very individual.
Right. Did you guys want to talk about security and how that happened with the hospitals and police?
Security.
You were
Oh,
talking
right,
about-
right. Yeah, the first time I was hospitalized, it took, what was it, 2 or 3 security guards, it was 3 security guards, a therapist, and a psychiatrist to restrain me.
Wow.
And even though I was out of control, I wasn't totally out of control because I was a trained martial artist and I was very good.
Oh,
Yeah. And I didn't want to hurt anybody, so I restrained myself from violence against them.
okay.
More defensive violence. But, you know, with that injection that subdued me, I ended up in the hospital. And then Lew can take it from there.
Well, yeah, the security people in the hospital that we went to at that time one guy decided that he was going to show how much control he had and was trying to be physically abusive and verbally abusive and trying to, you know, act as though, look at how tough I am. And I had to come over to him and I said, you know, if you bother her one more time, you could have a real problem, because she was two stripes away from being a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and she was regularly throwing around guys who were larger than this guy, weekly, in demonstrations as well as just in practice. And I said, and if she doesn't take you out, I will. and we had to have a real clear discussion about what was going on. But there were other issues with the hospitals too.
Okay.
That were not just security. I mean, one of the key things that bothered me was she went in once, and because it's an emergency room and because we have so few rooms available, something I'm still trying to work, psychiatric beds.
Yes.
She was in the hospital, in the emergency room for, brought her in one evening, and by mid-afternoon the next day, I went in to talk with her, and she was agitated, very upset, and she said, she finally was able to say, "I'm hungry." They had not fed her because they don't feed people in the emergency room.
Unless they ask for it,
Well,
right?
unless they ask
If
for
you're
it.
not well enough to ask
right.
for it.
So she was hungry. They had not fed her. That created a significant problem. One of the first things I did as a legislator, actually, the first question that I asked in a committee was asking whether they're going to really address that particular issue, which many of the folks were frankly surprised that it was an issue, but it clearly was.
One of the problems I found in the rooms is that they tend to bring you in and then leave you there, have the doctor come in and talk to you.
Okay.
If you're able to communicate, talk to you very briefly, then everybody disappears. You don't know what's going on. Sometimes you don't even know where you are or why you're there, and when you don't even really know how to reach out to contact somebody to say, "I am hungry, I need to use the restroom," and it's like.
Can you contact your family from these rooms?
Well,
too,
you can.
or-
I'm usually there.
He's usually there.
And then I
okay.
usually end up going out to the desk and saying, "This is what's going." If I can understand what she needs too,
All right.
because
But,
in some cases she didn't know that.
A nurse needs to come in and say, "Can I take you to the restroom?"
Right.
They need to be more proactive in
Right.
their care.
This is
for
the
mental health.
protocol for mental health is really serious. And when it comes to juvenile mental health, that's another issue altogether too.
Right.
So.
Can you talk a little bit what you've done in the legislature about?
Well, I'll
mental
tell you what
health?
I've attempted to do.
All right.
And we'll see more things coming up here shortly on juvenile mental health, on general mental health issues. I mean, before I got there, we managed to pass a bill regarding parity. That doesn't mean that it's happened.
Parity meaning everyone can have health,
Not just
mental
that
health
it's
insurance?
at parity for the other illnesses that people, other health issues that people
That mental
deal with.
health will be treated just like other illnesses.
So instead, for example, one of the things that we ran into was that there was an expectation that her mental health issues or concerns would dissolve after 6 visits, which doesn't happen with chronic heart condition or diabetes, but that's sort of the system that we're still under, and we need to be addressing that, as well as just we are looking at how we address some of the issues regarding juvenile and preventative efforts for juvenile and adult.
Yeah, and I want to speak about
Yes.
preventative. We're right now a lot of concern is being placed on providing more beds, and that's great. We need them, but we also need just as much effort going into preventative,
Like the early
healthcare.
assessment,
early
support
assessment,
alliance.
and also
Yeah.
getting care available for people before they reach that critical need. It's still, even with the mental health parity, people who are on Oregon Health Plan have a very hard time finding private psychiatrists who will treat them because they will not take Oregon Health Plan.
And because they're not paying enough
Yeah.
within the Oregon Health Plan, and that's a significant issue as well. Yeah.
So can we talk about your recovery? What
Yes.
does recovery mean to you? And
I don't. Recovery is a journey. I think that's what it means to me. It just means how I am going to live the rest of my life with these ongoing issues. I'm not going to wake up one morning and all this stuff is going to be behind me. It's going to be a constant journey and struggle. But how I deal with them. I saw my psychiatrist last week and I told him I cannot, change the people in my life. I cannot change the events that affect my life, but what I want to work on is changing how I respond to them.
okay.
And so that's what my recovery means, is working on behavioral modification. How do I respond to this and that?
And you speak in the public
I,
about
s-
your
I speak in the public.
experiences?
I do for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I do in our own voice presentations, which any public group can call NAMI and ask for one of these presentations. 2 presenters go out. We present a video on mental illness, and we speak about our own illnesses.
And then you also
I mentor peer-to-peer
peer-to-peer
classes, and I also do first steps where I go into the psychiatric units and talk to the patients there and give them a little.
Great.
you
We
know.
wanted to show some of your art.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So before, when you weren't doing so well, and a couple after too.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the first one we're going to look at is called Childhood. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Childhood represents what my childhood was like. I was very isolated, cut off from the rest of the world, and in a lot of pain. Just very, very lost.
Okay. And we have another
That
one.
one did sell.
The next one, Colors. Can you talk
Colors?
about that?
Yeah, Colors is in Lew's office in Salem. One of the psychiatrists I worked with and resisted for many, many years because part of the resistance was I was afraid I was going to lose a part of myself,
Okay.
if I surrendered to therapy. And he tried to talk to my whole person as being like a rainbow or like light, where there are all colors involved, and each color is separate, but yet unified, they made a whole. So I have the primary colors separate, but the unifying figure in the back holding them together.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's interesting because she gave me another description many years ago
Okay.
that I describe it. I talk about it being an example of the various people and personalities that she was dealing with within that, and some of those eyes, they're there. Some of the other figures are symbols within that. I have that sitting above my desk,
Okay.
and when I talk with people about mental health issues in the Capitol, that's what I talk about.
Yeah,
Sounds
each-
like a very powerful image for people.
It
to
is. It's a
see.
very powerful, and it's not for sale.
Okay.
Yeah, each color did represent a person
Oh,
that I
okay.
was dealing with in my makeup.
And then we had another one. It's called Untitled.
Yeah, Untitled is untitled because there are no faces. The body forms are all out of proportion because that's sometimes what it feels like. You have no face. You have no form. You're just kind of untitled.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have some different kinds of art.
Yeah,
And
these
how
are-
did that change? How did your art form change?
Well, I did those early ones in a period of a few years,
Okay.
and then for a long time I didn't do any art, and then I did art sporadically, and then just recently I decided I wanted to really get back into art, and I was very detailed at first, and then I decided no, that's not working. I want very loose, expressive paintings.
Okay.
And things that are important to me. You see in there's a little dog. I don't think he's very visible, but that's my therapy dog.
Yes, talk about your dog a little bit.
Willie. He usually is with me wherever I go. He is a psychiatric support dog,
Okay.
and he is very supportive. He has actually saved my life many times. And I put him in a lot of my paintings, and so there he is, curled up next to me, Summer by the Stream.
Okay, and the next painting?
The next one, there he is, painting the sunrise. I love mornings. Mornings are very special to Willie and I because we like to go out walking together early morning.
And you have bright light in this
Right,
painting
yeah,
and
lots
many
of
colors.
color, lots of
and
color, brightness and color.
Looks very hopeful.
Yeah.
All right. And the next one?
The next one is called The Dreamer. That one is sold. And that one, when I was a kid, of course, as a little girl, I loved horses, and I still love to do horses. And that is just, kind of a fantasy, relaxing there on the back. I did a poem once called My Pony,
Okay.
and so that's my pony.
Yes, you're a poet too,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
do poems.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I do.
great.
Yeah.
So Lew, how is it like for her to do art? Does that help?
Oh, the art is really impressive. It really helps her quite a bit. Although it doesn't give her a lot of sleep. She has been known to to work
Okay.
on things way into the night, 3, 4 in the morning, and then be completely exhausted the next day, and understanding why she is exhausted, a little irritable and exhausted because she hasn't had much sleep. But the art, the most recent art, has been just about almost every day. I think she's been doing for a while there. She was doing a piece every day,
Okay.
and that allows her to focus, allows her to try to concentrate on something that is not dealing with other issues that she might be bringing up. I think that the art, to a great extent, has taken over for the medication that she was using, because she has something that she's personally sort of focusing on rather than having a chemical help there.
The recent stuff, I am trying to work really fast.
Okay.
I try and do a
Okay.
painting in, doesn't always work, but I try and do a painting in about 6 hours. So I try not to start a painting late in the afternoon,
Okay.
which is when I'm up really late. If I do start one late,
So do you have an idea right then?
No.
And okay.
No.
So this takes a while to.
my paintings are dialogues. The whole time, I paint alone most of the time, because I am talking. And I am talking to myself, to whatever presence I feel around me or within me, and I am talking to the painting, and I say the painting is there. It's just
Okay.
it's just my job to bring it out.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's also been recently doing some bookmarks
Yeah.
that are smaller,
Yeah.
little designs and different designs, and then with a saying, a quote on the back of the bookmark.
Okay.
So she's been putting some of those things together. It's not just the pastels that you see there. She's also done a number of things in watercolor, and then she's done some jewelry, and there's
Very
a
creative.
range
Yes.
of art that she works with, and that has helped. I mean, for sometimes it's very detailed with patients that there's
Okay.
no way I would have.
Great.
She's done a lot of beadwork, which
Okay.
I could not even think about.
Do you do
doing.
any art?
Not that kind of art. no.
Okay. All right. So is there anything else you'd like to say about family relations or recovery while we're wrapping up here?
Anybody who has an individual in their family, maybe especially somebody who is new at it, somebody in their family's recently been diagnosed, I really encourage them to get educated, and I don't mean to plug NAMI, but I will.
All right.
I really highly recommend the
the
family.
National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yeah, the
Okay.
family to family education course. It is for family members to help them understand what is going on
Right.
with their loved one, give them a better understanding of how to help their loved one, and also how to take care of themselves. That is most important.
So Luke, can you speak quickly to that? How do you take care of yourself?
Not well, quite frankly.
Okay.
That's one of the struggles that I deal with, and that's part of it. Part of it, Melody's absolutely correct. Part of the problem we have is that families don't know what's going on, and they aren't really told. And after a certain age, they aren't told at all. So that can create a problem, and it doesn't help things.
Yeah,
Well,
that-
thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's been great having you. We've learned a lot. And thank you for joining us on Advocate for Wellness.